Things are getting real messy between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and after this courtroom battle, Blake might want to start rethinking everything. Because, let me tell you, things are not looking good for her at all. Not only that, both teams were asked if they were willing to give mediation a chance, but they both said no.
Justin's lawyer entered armed with a briefcase full of receipts. And let me tell you, Blake did not see this one coming.
This isn't gonna end well for you, Blake. Sorry.
In a world where sometimes people judge you before they give you a chance.
I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to wait and see. It's coming up soon.
Tonight, scandal rocking Hollywood as the fallout begins from Blake Lively's explosive allegations against co-star Justin Baldoni.
We have these moments where
staring. You just stare.
Literally we've done it for like 5 minutes. it's like, I think you would find it terrifying. We just literally look at each other and like
when
time.
I found a sociopath.
And like time stops.
Yeah.
But like that's just how it's been for us from the beginning.
No, we're like, oh my God, there's not enough.
Actor-director Justin Baldoni is now suing his former co-star Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, seeking more than $400 million in damages, accusing them of defamation and extortion.
So do you feel free now to try everything? I mean, what is the next
What does
5
that
years
mean?
Well, in terms of trying, I mean, well,
You
yeah.
see the movie.
I did see the movie. But I mean,
We're going to give you a pop quiz.
there can be a pop quiz every minute of it.
Are you going to sue Blake Lively too?
Into oblivion, Megan. Wait till you see this lawsuit. But it's all going to be based on evidence. It's not going to be just a lawsuit.
True victims who have been in these situations make this book, make this movie, bring on a star of incredible quality. They felt so lucky to be able to get a star of Blake Lively's, height and fame and voice to be able to be a part of it.
From the way Blake's team has been desperately trying to avoid this, it's obvious she is not ready to face Friedman head on. And let's talk about what that really means. If Blake Lively is so confident in her allegations, why is she scared of a deposition? Why is she running from Friedman like he's the boogeyman? If she's telling the truth, shouldn't she be eager to sit down, answer the questions, and let the facts speak for themselves?
Blake Lively has found herself in a challenging legal situation that seems to be getting worse with every passing day. She has lost in court again, and this loss marks her second defeat in a row. Naturally, it's not looking good for her or her legal team right now. You can almost picture the tension in the conference rooms, her lawyers frantically flipping through documents and case files, hoping to find any bit of leverage or strategy to turn things around. It's clear that morale within Blake's team is fading fast. The consistent defeats feel like a never-ending uphill battle, and each time they attempt a new maneuver, it seems to backfire. As the days go on, some observers have started calling their efforts futile, comparing their current trajectory to a sinking ship whose crew can't bail out water quickly enough. People close to the case say you can sense their frustration. The lawyers and even the assistants might be running around in circles as they try to piece together a plan. So far, nothing is working in their favor, and these setbacks have only added to the sense of looming defeat. The core of this legal mess revolves around allegations of harassment connected to Blake Lively's co-actor Justin Baldoni. While it might sound unusual for Blake to be at the center of a lawsuit about someone else's alleged misconduct, the details point to a broader case, with multiple moving parts, witness testimonies, and cross-claims. During the most recent court hearing concerning these allegations, the judge essentially tossed out the evidence that Blake's team presented. This development was a massive blow for them. The judge dismissed those documents, ruling that they don't meet certain evidentiary standards or are simply irrelevant. That left Blake's legal representative scrambling to figure out what to do next. According to courtroom observers, it was a bit like watching someone try to piece together the shards of a broken vase, each fragment slipping through their fingers, leaving them less and less certain of how to proceed. In the immediate aftermath, her lawyers did what lawyers often do when they feel they need to regroup. They asked the presiding judge, Judge Lehman in this instance, for more time. The idea was that they wanted to amend their lawsuit, presumably to strengthen their legal arguments and possibly collect more robust evidence or reframe the complaint so that the court would be more receptive the next time around. Judge Lehman did show some understanding at first and granted Blake's team an extension until February. That might seem like a minor victory, but as many legal experts will tell you, each extension is an opportunity to breathe and re-strategize. However, in high-profile cases, especially those that generate a media frenzy, even short extensions can draw public scrutiny. Fans, critics, and the media all keep track of these new deadlines, interpreting them as signs of who's winning or losing the battle. Then, when Blake's team came back asking for even more time, an extension until March 5th to be exact, Judge Lehman was not on board with the idea. After all, granting one extension is one thing, but continually pushing deadlines can frustrate the court. It can seem like a stalling tactic, especially if the opposing side, in this case Justin Baldoni's legal team, strongly objects. And yes, Baldoni's side certainly objected. They made it clear they felt Blake's team was overstepping. From the judge's perspective, it could look like the attorneys were trying to move the goalposts every time they found themselves unprepared or at a disadvantage. Despite the skepticism, Blake's legal team insisted they had a valid reason for needing until March 5th. One of those reasons was the plan to line up more witnesses who could testify in this sexual harassment case. If you're wondering why Blake would need new witnesses for allegations tied to Justin Baldoni, it's because she's essentially claiming direct or indirect harm, or that her professional reputation was impacted by Baldoni's alleged behavior on set. Legal battles like this can become extremely complicated because they often involve multiple claims: defamation, emotional distress, breach of contract, or even interference with business relationships. Among the witnesses Blake's team hoped to bring in was actress Jenny Slate, who had a role in It Ends With Us as Baldoni's sister. Jenny Slate had previously shown support for Blake. She went as far as publicly calling Blake a good friend and stating that she stood by her. Jenny also made it clear that she did not look kindly on allegations people made against Blake Lively in the past, indicating that Jenny believed that Blake had been unfairly targeted in some situations. But when Blake's lawyers reached out for Jenny's official testimony, Jenny reportedly refused to take part. She distanced herself from the case, effectively saying she did not want to be involved in legal proceedings that pitted Blake Lively against Justin Baldoni. This refusal shocked many, particularly those who had seen Jenny speak highly of Blake. However, Blake's team wasn't about to let Jenny's reluctance stop them. They intended to subpoena her, which means legally requiring her to appear or provide testimony. Blake's lawyers believed that Jenny had experienced what they called uncomfortable interactions with Justin Baldoni, which, if confirmed, could significantly strengthen their overall lawsuit. Some people, though, suspected that Blake's attorneys were just fishing for more female voices to testify against Baldoni, hoping that the sheer number of women sharing concerns about Justin might sway public opinion or even the court. When it became clear that Jenny Slate was not going to cooperate willingly, at least not in the straightforward manner that Blake's team had hoped, Blake's lawyers realized they needed a fresh strategy. They went back to the judge, hoping to convince him that these evolving witness issues and the need to reorganize their approach justified a later deadline. Unfortunately for them, Judge Lehman was already wary of continuous delays. He wanted concrete reasons to grant more time and was not satisfied with what he saw as vague or unsubstantiated explanations. During one hearing, Judge Lehman specifically asked why March 5th was necessary. Why not any other date? In response, Blake's team presented a complicated narrative about adding new parties to the lawsuit, essentially merging or coordinating multiple lawsuits that overlapped with the current case. One such new party was Jed Wallace and his company, Street Relations. According to Blake's lawyers, Wallace had filed a separate 10-page lawsuit in a Texas federal court, and it apparently overlapped with or impacted the claims against Justin Baldoni. This overlap, Blake's lawyers argued, meant they needed more time to handle the complexities, coordinating strategies, reviewing new evidence, and so on. At first glance, that might sound reasonable. Legal processes can become a labyrinth when multiple lawsuits in different states overlap. Lawyers often have to coordinate depositions, handle scheduling conflicts, and integrate new evidence from those separate but related legal actions. However, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, was not buying it. In fact, Friedman showed up to court ready to challenge nearly every point Blake's team made. In a dramatic turn, Friedman brought out emails, messages, which seemed to contradict Blake's team's account of events. For instance, Friedman pointed out that back in January, during the devastating LA wildfires, his team had asked Blake's team for an extension due to the chaos in Los Angeles. According to Friedman, Blake's team never formally agreed to that extension. This was a crucial detail because it implied that Blake's lawyers were now asking for a courtesy they hadn't been willing to extend to Baldoni's team. Even so, Friedman said he had shown good faith by granting an extension to Blake's side in the past, but he had also made it crystal clear that if they got an extension, his side would want one too, pushing their response date to April 15th. Friedman believed that was only fair. If one party keeps getting more time to prepare, the opposing party deserves the same courtesy to avoid being blindsided. This is a typical back and forth in legal proceedings, where each side tries to maintain balance in scheduling so neither is unfairly disadvantaged. Then Friedman dropped a bombshell. He revealed that Blake's legal team was blaming Jed Wallace for this entire scheduling mess, claiming Wallace's lawsuit from Texas was the reason they needed a postponement. However, Friedman showed evidence that Blake Lively herself had already taken legal action against Wallace on January 21st, a full 2 weeks before Wallace responded with his own lawsuit. In other words, Friedman alleged that Blake's side knew perfectly well about these legal entanglements earlier than they claimed, and was therefore being disingenuous by using Wallace as the scapegoat. This revelation was a game changer. From the judge's point of view, it could look like Blake's lawyers were trying to manipulate the timeline or hide the fact that they had, in many ways, initiated a key component of this complicated legal puzzle. No judge wants to feel misled or see lawyers playing fast and loose with the facts to gain extra time. So it's no surprise that after hearing Friedman's evidence, Judge Lehman was not impressed. As a result, the judge denied Blake's request for a month-long extension, which she had asked for to properly amend her lawsuit. Instead, he gave them a mere 1 extra day to submit their amendment. 1 day. Legal teams sometimes need weeks just to coordinate new statements, gather affidavits, or incorporate additional facts into a complaint. A single day is almost like a slap on the wrist, a firm message from the judge that he was done entertaining what he perceived as unnecessary delays. When this decision came down, observers noted the visible change in Blake's lawyer's demeanor. People in the courtroom described them as looking visibly deflated. They seemed to understand that this was a serious setback. To make matters worse, this wasn't the only loss Blake's team faced. They had previously tried to slap Ryan Friedman with a gag order, aiming to prevent him from discussing the case publicly. Gag orders are sometimes used in high-profile legal cases to keep both sides from influencing public opinion or from revealing sensitive information to the media. If the court had granted this gag order, Friedman would have been legally restrained from sharing details about the lawsuit in interviews, on social media, or through other public channels. However, the court threw out that gag order request, effectively telling Blake's team, "Nice try, but no." That means Friedman can talk about the case as much as he wants. In a high-stakes, high-profile battle, controlling the narrative is incredibly important to both parties. Blake's team had likely hoped that by silencing Friedman, they could keep negative or potentially damaging information out of the headlines. But now, Friedman has free rein to speak, not the outcome Blake's side was hoping for. And that's not all. Justin Baldoni's legal team took their fight to the public arena by launching a website dedicated to sharing evidence, receipts, and even video footage related to the case. This level of transparency can be a real headache for the opposing side. In other words, Baldoni's team is saying, if you want the public involved, let's involve them fully, presumably posting everything from official documents to behind-the-scenes clips or communications that might support Baldoni's defense. Blake's legal team, already feeling like they were drowning in court motions and negative rulings, begged the court to shut down Baldoni's website. They argued that it wasn't appropriate to air out legal matters in such a public and potentially sensational way, but the court again sided against them, essentially pointing out that Blake's team had already gone to the media themselves, using major outlets like the New York Times to share their side of the story. If Blake's attorneys had tried to influence public perception through interviews, articles, or press releases, why should Baldoni's side be silenced from doing the same? At this stage, if you imagine the situation from Blake's team's perspective, you might picture them in full damage control mode. Each legal strategy they try, be it evidence submission, deadline extensions, subpoenas to reluctant witnesses, or gag orders, seems to fail spectacularly. They are likely losing the battle in the court of public opinion as well, since news headlines are spinning the story to imply that Blake's side is desperate and possibly even deceitful about certain details. And let's not forget the immense stakes. This lawsuit reportedly involves a whopping $400 million. While Blake and her husband, actor Ryan Reynolds, are certainly successful and wealthy, $400 million is a life-changing sum by anyone's standards. Losing a lawsuit with a price tag that high could have enormous repercussions, from personal financial strain to damage to Blake's public image and future career prospects. Some fans are worried that if this lawsuit goes the wrong way, it might affect not only Blake's financial standing, but also any future roles or endorsement deals she might land. Now, in the midst of all this, you have to wonder how much more Blake's legal team can handle before completely crumbling under the pressure. Legal proceedings are stressful and expensive, even more so in a high-profile environment where every misstep is broadcast to the world. How many more times can they appear in court only to be told no by the judge? How many more motions can they file before they run out of plausible arguments? Some observers predict that unless Blake's lawyers pull a major rabbit out of their hat, some piece of undeniable evidence, or a smoking gun testimony that drastically changes the course of this case, Blake might be headed toward an all-out loss. The mounting evidence, the missed deadlines, and the court's apparent impatience with her team's requests don't bode well. Even if they manage to settle out of court, the financial toll and the reputational damage could be significant. In the court of public opinion, people are divided. Some still believe Blake Lively is simply caught up in a bizarre swirl of legal drama, and that she's actually the victim of malicious claims orchestrated by Justin Baldoni's camp. Others, however, think that the repetitive attempts at delaying the case hint that Blake's side might not have the evidence they claim, or that they're trying to figure out a narrative that will stick. Then there are those who don't take sides at all, but are fascinated by the spectacle of two famous actors duking it out in a real-life legal showdown, especially one with such a high price tag. Of course, none of us can say with absolute certainty how this will all end. Lawsuits can change course unexpectedly. Sometimes a witness comes forward at the last minute, or a judge reconsiders a prior ruling. But at this moment, it does look like Blake's team is running short on luck and low on strategies that the court is willing to accept. So, what do you think? Are Blake's attorneys fighting a losing battle, or do you believe they'll somehow turn this around? Is there a chance we'll see a huge plot twist where new evidence emerges, or is it more likely the case will fizzle out with a settlement? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section.